Hello and welcome to number 15 of the WP Builds newsletter. It was released on the 4th of June 2018 and it's entitled Massive Gutenberg Tutorials, Yoast Ruins SEO and the End of Tablets. All sounds a bit doom and gloom, doesn't it? Okay, we'll get stuck into that in a moment. Just a couple of other things first. If you go over to the wpbuilds.com website, in fact over to wpbuilds.com/deals, you can currently avail yourself of 2 deals there. We've got 20% off Toolset, which is a plugin, well, it's a suite of plugins really, enable you to doing things like custom post types and custom fields and display them in various ways. It's very complicated and very fun, and we had Amir Helzer on from that plugin last week. Also, if you go to that page, you can get 25% off a main WP license, which enables you to update and keep all of your WordPress sites in order from one central self-hosted dashboard. Okay, let's get on with the news itself, shall we? The first piece of news this week comes from the WordPress.org website, and on that website they have updated their privacy policy. Presumably this is something to do with GDPR, the fact we've all had to do this over our many sites in the last few weeks. They're basically, they've made it a little bit more human readable, a little bit easier to understand, and it explains how they collect and use data, how long it's stored and retained, and how you can go about requesting a copy of your data. It's all very much GDPR, but you know, if WordPress don't do it, why should the rest of us do it? So it's good to see that they are. The next one comes from the WP Tavern website, and it's an article about the fact that WordCamp US 2018 is, well, it's a little way off, to be honest. I think it's in December and it's in Nashville, Tennessee, but they are accepting speaker proposals, and obviously it's a bit of a big deal, so if you're going to be in the US or planning to journey there for that, now is the time to describe to the hosts what it is that you want to talk about and hopefully get yourself a slot in one of the many tracks that are going on. Okay, the next one comes. This is absolutely brilliant. I'm really enjoying this one. This is from CSS Tricks, a website that I used to visit lots and lots, but haven't done recently. They've got a gigantic series of tutorials about how you can develop for Gutenberg. Now, I think this really is aimed specifically at developers. So for example, you've got to know things like, basic JavaScript, and you've got to know about the normal WordPress things like action hooks and all of that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of a learning curve possibly if you don't know that stuff already. But it's split up into about 7 sections, 7 parts, and each of them is utterly brilliant. So I would go and have a look at that if Gutenberg is your thing and you want to learn about how you can create blocks for Gutenberg and all of that goodness. Yeah, really worth looking at, I would say. The next one, this is a bit of a sad tale. This is searchenginejournal.com, who are reporting that Yoast, in a recent update to 7.0 of the Yoast SEO plugin, they actually, this is catastrophic really in a way, they cause sites to lose ranking through one of their updates. Now it's a bit of an edge case. It was all to do with images being redirected incorrectly. But sadly, the founder of Yoast was the one, I think you pronounce his name as Juiced, I'm not sure. But he was the one who wrote and committed the code that broke things. So very apologetic. They've done the right thing. They've admitted to everything. But yeah, since March, if you've had this update, you might want to explore if your SEO rankings have been tumbling a little bit. And they fixed it, and they've done the right thing. They've apologized unreservedly for what's been going on. So, props to them for doing that. Okay, this next one, back on the WP Tavern. This is an article entitled One Way to Whitelist and Blacklist Blocks in Gutenberg. It actually links out to another Gutenberg handbook explaining how you can stop certain Gutenberg blocks appearing. So for example, let's say you didn't want your client to be able to do certain things and you didn't want them having access to a certain block. This explains how that might be achieved. It's maybe going to break things in the future because Gutenberg hasn't exactly solidified yet, but nevertheless quite an interesting piece of news and development, I thought. Okay, the next one is another just a gigantic article. This one is by My Theme Shop. It's not particularly time specific, but it's the ultimate guide to WordPress speed optimization. And when they say ultimate guide, I think they're to be taken seriously. This is a huge piece of piece of work, and it explains just about every single possible thing that you could do. Some of it you'll have missed, some of it you won't be bothered to do, some of it you'll have done, but I thought it was a really good piece of work explaining how you can speed up your WordPress website. So if you've got clients who are possibly looking for ways to get things speeded up, this might be a good port of call. Okay. The next one is on the WP Shout website, and it's the final piece of our WordPress news this week. And their contributor, Fred Meyer, has written an article called The Small Business WordPress Developer Code of Honor. And it goes to describe a kind of contract, not a written down contract, but a kind of contract that all WordPress developers ought to have when they're deploying sites for their clients. I don't necessarily agree with all the points, because it seems like if we were all to obey this code of honor, we all would need to be, PHP experts and so on, which not all of us are. But nevertheless, it's an interesting idea. Again, it's another long piece of, it's another long article, so, caveat emptor, but certainly worth reading. And I think it just made me think, maybe there's something in this, maybe a stripped down version of what he's proposing. But it goes into all sorts of different things, what the clients need to know, what the developers need to know, and how they might interact over this code of honor, and how we might explain what we offer before we actually develop a website for a client. Certainly very interesting. Okay, the next three are not related to WordPress specifically, but I always like to throw these in at the end. Google has quit selling tablets until very recently. In fact, just the other day, if you went over to the Play Store on Google, you could actually buy their range of tablets, but it would appear that they've decided to stop selling them. Now, I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but I don't really know anybody who actually carries around a tablet. I have one and I use it infrequently, I'd say, but it kind of feels to me that maybe tablets have had their moment. I could be completely wrong, but Google certainly feels so, and obviously they're not going to stop developing Android and have it so that it can display sites. But nevertheless, tablets have stopped being sold by Google. Maybe this is a portent of things to come. The next one, this is nothing to do with anything in particular, but I just liked it. It's from the New York Post. I don't know if that's a good publication or not, but I found it, and it's just about a lady who wrote a sort of slightly damning Yelp review of a surgeon that she went to see, and then within a week or so, that surgeon had tied her up in litigation to the cost of $20,000 she spent so far, and it was just kind of an illustrative thing to me of how our comments and the little pithy things that we write on the internet can sometimes come back and haunt us. To my mind, she didn't write anything controversial. She just gave an honest review of her impression of her time in this surgery. Nevertheless, you've got to be a little bit careful about what you write and how people perceive it. Okay, and the very last one this week is the fact that, I don't know, again, how much to take this with a pinch of salt, but it would appear that teens are dumping Facebook and preferring other platforms, for example, YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. For me, Facebook is a big part of my online life, but my understanding is that children are not quite so enamoured with it, having found a whole range of other things, and it would appear that depending on your social standing and earnings, you are more likely to use one platform over another. I wonder, could we be in 10 years' time Facebookless? I somehow doubt it, but you never know. Okay, there we go. That's the WP Builds newsletter for one more week. Please, as I said, go and share it all over the place, and I really, really hope you have a lovely, lovely week. Bye-bye for now, and we'll see you on Thursday for the podcast.